Taste and See workshop with me. I'm Miriam Smout from Redemption Mamas. It's it's something on my heart to work with women and see them enjoy beautiful heart healing in their lives, so they can walk fully in a space where they're not carrying all those heart wounds, pain from past stuff, reclaim personal power and unlock God-given destiny. That's my heart. And my heart is also to bring lots of women along with me and not just do this on my own. So these come taste and see workshops are going to be opportunities for you to learn about heart healing, get an insight as to what heart healing looks like and how it works. What are the benefits? What gains are you going to experience? And I felt that one of the best ways to do that would be to invite women that I've connected with along their own journeys. And one of those is Cheryl Leo. I never get your name right. Cheryl is somebody that I've been journeying with for about a year now, and we have been doing an ascension group together with Global Sons Network. We co-host it. So Cheryl's been a real inspiration to me and a great blessing. And what I have encountered with her over the moments and the times that we've shared is that Cheryl's been doing a deep dive of her own in the heart healing journey. So heart healing is when you make a choice, you make a decision that you're going to listen to what your heart is telling you. And when we do that, we start to live from a different dimension. We start to live from a dimension of the spirit man, the inner man. And so when we live from the spirit, when we live from listening to that still small voice, we start to hear things that are transformational in our life. And there's some stories I'd love for Cheryl to share in her own journey, which are really, really quite amazing, and they demonstrate this whole heart healing journey. So I'm going to bring Cheryl in and let's go together like this. Hey, Cheryl. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Is your audio on? No, your audio has jumped off. What's gone on with that? We've been working on technology here. Hello, hello.
There we go.
Cheryl,
I turned it off so you wouldn't hear me coughing while you were talking.
Oh, look, we're just too clever for each other, aren't we? So, Cheryl, you live in Washington, D.C. with your husband, who...
yeah, I live about out of the chaos. So we're about an hour north in a small town.
Yep. And you grew up in Florida, is that right?
Yeah, born in Michigan, grew up most of my life in Florida. And then once I got married, had kids in Florida. And then my husband finally finished college after 10 years during our marriage. And he got a federal job with the government up here. And we've been here for 20 something odd.
Wow. And you sent me an amazing picture the other day of the snow. We're hearing it even here about the snow in the US at the moment. That's just really shutting things down. Even the NBL players, some of them didn't turn up for their game because they couldn't get onto the road and out of their house. Here I am sitting in my summer top because it's been hot. It's amazing. Well, Cheryl, thanks so much for joining me. My heart with this is that I don't want to do this. I want to do this in connection with other people, and I've got some other beautiful women that I'd love to bring on and get them to share some of the journeys that they've experienced in that healing and that healing space. Tell us a bit about your life and how you came to that understanding that there was more and you wanted it and you started to pursue it. What's your story with that?
I believe not to go back into all kinds of history, But to take it from the point where I had finished what I thought was my life call of homeschooling 3 boys, quit my corporate job, pregnancy with the first one, and they did go to school for a while, and then finally, I bit the bullet and dedicated my life to that. I'm thinking I'm sacrificing my life, my goals, and they all graduated high school, and I was like, am I done? And that started me on a me journey, where before I was so occupied with them that you're lucky to get 5 minutes to yourself in the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's when I was finally able to see that like I had some stuff I needed to work through because I was getting triggered, which I didn't even know what that was. I was so focused and busy that I wasn't listening, like you said, to that still small voice going like, why is that bothering me so much? Why did I explode? Why can't I let that thought go? Like something would get in my head and I'm just like, why am I focused on that? Why am I so upset there's dishes in the sink, or there's, you know, something I planned didn't go the way I planned, because just with taking on that responsibility, I think just even the responsibility of having kids, you know, like you can drop them. It's a lot of responsibility. But so my journey with the heart healing really happened at that point when I was able to finally sit down and journal, finally have, hours to myself, which was so foreign to me. So I encourage women now to journal, because every time I went to a women's conference, every time I went to something where there was a peek into people processing, somebody at the event always said, my life changed when I started journaling. And I'm like, I don't have time to journal. So I just encourage people, write down your thoughts, write down your stuff, and open that door to the possibility of God speaking back, of actually getting a response. Because I think as women, we tend to overthink. My husband is a scientist, and he would ask women coming over for coffee, I'm doing a study, a survey, just with himself, not officially. And he's like, as a woman, do you ever not have a thought in your head? And every reaction is exactly what your face just did. Huh? Like, is that a thing? And I would just laugh, because that's where, even just him asking that question, he would tell me, he goes, when you ask your husband, he would tell women this, when you ask your husband or any man, what are you thinking, when they're kind of like just sitting there, and they say they're not lying. They have a space in them that there's no thoughts. And that's so foreign. That was so foreign to me that I said, I need to renovate something, a room in my brain where I can go and see, here we go. I just entered into it. Here I am, talk, 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 talk. And I enter into that space.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
I call that
go ahead.
I call that the secret place, that when you can go into that space, which is just you listening to what's on your heart and hearing, understanding. It gives you understanding and it gives you perspective. I'd love you to share the story about how you found healing in your relationship with your mother. You were talking with me about that the other day, and how that brought that whole process of leaning in and listening to what your heart was saying, rather than being continually triggered, and you stepped into that space of allowing yourself to listen to the still small voice, that allowing to live from your spirit man rather than from all of the stuff that was triggering you. Can you share that story with us? It's just such a beautiful example of.
Yeah, I'll actually share the end. I think I'm going to share the end from the beginning, because it was a long process I didn't even know was happening. I was kind of stuck in acting like an 8-year-old. So I'm talking to you from my healed self. okay, instead of taking you through the whole process.
Mm.
I discovered that for years I was, I just got this thought in my head where it was like, I'm acting like an 8-year-old. And that was my heart saying, I'm stuck at 8 years old. Like this part of me, not the whole part,
Mm.
one part. When we would go visit my parents, I remember saying, don't poke the bear, don't poke the bear, don't poke the bear. Because I would say something, and I'm not even going to say my mom, it would explode out of her and bite me. This is my healed self understanding what was going on. And I was like, as I took this and processed it, I'm like, why do I say that? And it's like, I'm not 8 years old. I don't have to react. I don't have to be afraid to say something that's inappropriate that causes it to just, it was just this different voice. It was this manifestation. I come to find out. And
Mm.
I processed with the Lord and I said, that it bites me every time we go. Well, first it was like a weekend, then it was 3 days in, it got to 2 days in, it got to be a half an hour after I walked in one time. And I told my husband, we're gonna have to stay in a hotel. Like, this is crazy. And I said, what did I say wrong? I tried to be so nice. And he said, honey, you said nothing wrong. What was in your heart when you said what you said? I just was saying stuff about the conversation. But in my heart, I went, oh, I was so judging her for not buying my dad a chair because she bought her. It was just stupid. But my heart was wrong. And my heart was with this, yeah, like, I can't believe she did that. And it was already judging and in this. But even though I said, well, maybe you should just buy him an electric chair that lifts him up. And I get bit. I call it bit. It just, it gets nasty.
Yeah.
And there's never been an apology that the Lord showed me. There's never been an apology from little when that thing happens. And I got a new perspective because I wasn't trying to protect myself. I was actually curious to why things were happening. And I hear it's torturing her. It just bites me. And I'm afraid of it. I go, torture? How long has she been tortured? And I'm expecting to hear like when she was 8 years old or, like something happened. I hear the word from conception.
Mm.
And it was like all the scales fell off and I went, compassion bellowed up in me and just came out.
Mm.
So the next time we visit, I'm a whole new person. That compassion, not only it was coming out toward her situation, but because it came out of me, it has to come through me, and
Mm.
I'm healed. No
Yeah.
striving, no. It was just like it's got my right. We go, we visit. I'm literally folding clothes, and I say something and it was a little off. I was like, it was about money. And I said, oh, I'll pay for dinner, blah, blah, blah. I got a little pride and I trigger it. It's not my mom. It's not here. I'm going to help people with some hope. It's not the person. If you've
Mm.
never got an apology, it's because they don't even know that they said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something else is presenting, their trauma is presenting, and when we're healed, and I just watched from afar as it just went on and on and on. And then I just ask, why do you think I'm mad at you? Because it kept saying I'm mad at. And the whole thing came out. It was a lie from the get-go. We were able to clarify the details, and oh my gosh, the
Mm.
relationship is healed.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
25-year-old lie when we actually had a family discussion and my husband officiated because it was toxic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it was beautiful. And I'm like, wow, it just came from being curious of why is this happening and being
Yeah.
open that I'm triggering it, right? Yes, it wasn't me, but I became, don't poke the bear. don't
Yep.
say anything wrong. So yeah, so that's where it's just now we can have long talks and there's no triggering happening. And I'm like, it was a lie, a
Yeah.
misconception of what some details from my younger years and some
Mm.
assumptions.
Yeah.
And now,
That's so beautiful. And you just pinpointed a number of things there, like what we tend to do when we're in those toxic relationships is we'll blame and we'll project back onto that person. And so what's coming out of us is no better than what's coming at us from that person. And so what you just highlighted there is you took responsibility, you took accountability for this thing that was triggering you. You went and you had a conversation, and I know that was a process that unpacked for you what was in your heart. And then once we get to that point where we can like detach and disentangle from all of the emotion of it, because we've done some heart healing in our own lives, then we can go back into that space or that toxic place, and we're able to stand our ground. And as you then were able to progress and get some understanding of what was the lie that for your mum she had believed, and for you all those years, the relationship was broken because
right,
you didn't have that understanding. But until we work on ourselves and get that healing within ourselves, we can't have those conversations because we're
right.
just triggered all the time. Today, one of the things that my husband and I do most days is we'll go for a walk down the beach, which is close to us, and we've been reading Proverbs. And today, this was the proverb that really struck me. Can you bridle your tongue when your heart is under pressure?
Probably
We can't.
not.
Probably not. I can't, when I'm under pressure, it's like everything wants to erupt, doesn't it? It just wants to blow up and say that's not fair and you said this and rah rah rah, and we only make the whole cycle worse. But it then says it's how you show you're wise. An understanding heart will keep you cool, calm, and collected no matter what you're facing. And that verse just like, resonated so beautifully with me.
Wow.
That's it, isn't it? When our heart understands, when our heart gets to connect with that 8-year-old you that you connected with, that um, was behaving like an 8-year-old, and you got the insight, you got the understanding, you got the revelation of what was going on inside of you, and then you were able to step back and see it from a bigger perspective. Then you were able to hear what your mum's story and the things that had been setting her off. And your relationship now with her is healthy by the sounds, and or healthy to the point that you can have one, which is so sweet.
Yeah. On the lie was telling her that the demonic lie that she's telling her, you ask her about this. She has to
Mm.
tell
Yeah.
you. So for 25 years, every came over, she's waiting for me to open my heart and trust her. She's a mother. She just wants to help. But the lie that the said to her, no, you can't do that. Unbeknownst
Mm.
to me, and there's this wall, and it just built, and I really saw when the one happened within a half an hour of getting there, when the explosion happened, and I really was trying to be innocent but was not right. This is what I saw, Rob, when I processed.
Mm.
Well, this is what I saw. It's helicopter pad. As my heart was totally judging her. She's being selfish. She shouldn't have done that. But that place in our head that never shuts up and had something to attack. I see this helicopter pad raising, and then
Mm.
lights go off, going around like advertising. And I was like, "What is that?" And I hear you had something in common with the enemy, and you gave legal right for it to manifest and attack you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's me in need of prayer. My heart attitude spoken out of my mouth created this boxing match.
Wow.
Now I just,
Yeah.
that day when the whole healing happened, I stayed out of the ring. I just kept folding clothes while the volcano was going off. And I said, I just thought it kept saying, why are you angry? Why are you angry at me? Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? And I just asked a simple question: why do you think that? And the truth came out. And then the explosion came and took her away, like 8 feet away, sitting down, like we're not still in the same room. My husband walked by and said, how you doing? He heard the whole thing and he knew what was happening in the spirit realm. It's good to have a partner that can be with you.
Yeah.
Because I said, we need a family meeting and you need to officiate it, because I knew, because of that toxic relationship, sometimes you need that third party. So that I was able to sit on the couch with my mouth shut, humility. I don't need to defend myself. I need to let that compassionate love come out of me however it wants. Right. And my husband let her say all the details, everything she thought, everything that had been going through her head for 25 years.
Yeah.
And then I finally, the room got calm and everything was out. And I said, can I clarify? And I didn't defend myself. I just spoke what the facts were. And it cleared the table.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth. It's the truth that sets us free.
I didn't have to work at it. I just had to I had to give space for truth to reign.
Yeah.
Because if I start defending blah, 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 and you shouldn't have thought that, then I'm just in the ring wrestling.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
never fixes anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never does. Well, that's the verse. Can you bridle your tongue when your heart is under pressure? That's how you show that you're wise. An understanding heart keeps you cool, calm, and collected no matter what you're facing. I mean, who doesn't want that? I know that when I've been in those situations of intense pressure and you're being poked and you're being
Accused.
and feeling the hurt and the wounds, it's because there is something in common. You know, that wound inside of me is being triggered and scratched and irritated. And when you're being hurt, everything in you just wants to hurt back or bite back or justify yourself. And to actually stay quiet and cool and calm and collected, no matter what you're facing, it really does take that positioning your heart to be in a place of not choosing to act the same way, not choosing to react to the same way. So when you say journaling has helped you, what are some of the things that you've found with journaling? What are some of the strategies you've used, and how have you seen that benefit for you?
I think it's kind of like oh gosh, it's kind of like, let's see, I'm seeing things like having a whiteboard like in my soul. Like if I can write it out my hand and be truthful, right? Wherever I'm at, whether I'm vomiting or I'm actually seeking and searching, because we're all at different places on different days. You know, I think that you said ministering to women because we're female. It just happens, right? But
Yeah.
but it's given me a place to allow God to speak back with me, which I never ever thought journaling was. I thought it was just like a diary, and you don't want anyone to get a hold of your diary because you're being raw and you're telling all your sin. It's not a diary. It's talking. It's being, like when I said being curious. It's writing down. Why do I get so mad when there's a dish in the sink? And leave the question mark open. And then it's amazing how, my husband puts it this way, because he ministers to people and scientists and things like that. And they'll come ask him about, his belief, because we're Christian, we believe in Jesus and all this kind of stuff. And they'll say, how do you reconcile science and faith? And he tells me one time, he goes, I talked to this guy for hours, answered all his questions, doing all this. And he goes, and at the end of the night, I told him, you know what? When you go home and you're sleeping and you're getting ready to go to bed, you look up and dare God to show himself to you, because he's God. He goes, I would never believe in God unless he showed himself to me. And he did. So you need that experience.
Mm.
And that's where I think journaling helped me in just giving that openness to actually get a response, whether it comes from a song that I hear or it comes from, you know, somebody's conversation or just thoughts. I just start putting things together, like things start lining up and the matrix starts going blah, 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 and I see things differently. So it helps me get it out, and it's not just bouncing in my head like a pinball, because then I'm never getting an answer to the thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It helps it get it out. You know, it's just better out than in, because when we hold on to those things, they just fester and become more and more toxic, and the lie just gets stronger and louder and all of that stuff. So, well, Cheryl, I'm just so grateful for your time and your sharing with us today. I want to bring in the women, some that I've worked with, some that I know, like yourself, and just start to really have conversations about heart healing and how listening to our heart can be such an incredible freeing and releasing thing. Did you ever come, like a lot of people say, oh, I don't know about that, you know, what might I unpack, and how will I ever get out of the ugly mess that I might find is in there? Did you ever have those thoughts?
um it's kind of like when you said earlier about you know, your inner self, or your inner your secret space, think of like a
Mm,
secret garden. And if you ever grow without you even entering into that door, things are going to
true.
grow, some flowers, some weeds. But if we just enter in, it's kind of like if you've ever done gardening or ever just going to work on a potted plant or whatever, it needs care. And the one
Mm,
perspective I'm recently realizing is that my spirit needs to be nurturing my soul, and not
mhm.
my soul bossing around my spirit, soul, and body. So I think that's where that immature reactions to things, being triggered, toddler, I want what I want, and I don't understand why you're not doing that. All that reactiveness in us is from not just saying, I just need to be. I need to sit in my garden, enjoy the flowers, and pick a few weeds. I
Yes.
don't have to renovate the entire garden in 1 hour.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, I do it. I have like in my backyard, I have a spot where I have some stones under our stairway, you know, just river rocks.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't plant anything in there, but we have a bird feeder up on the deck. And so the little corn things pop out and the little seeds. And it's amazing what starts growing stones, but literally it doesn't take
Mm.
over, because every time I go take out the trash or something, I pull a few. You know,
Yeah.
some of them get tall if I don't go out there for a month and somebody else is doing the trash, and I'll go out and go, whoa, and I pull them all real quick because they haven't rooted yet. So I think there's always something you can do if you just, when we're still. I think that's when
Mm,
we get freaked
mm.
out. Like, just learn to be still. That was a new concept to me. That could be for another conversation. That's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
A place with no thoughts. Really?
Yeah.
And that's when you can just say, I'm not going to react. I'm not, I'm, there's a lot of time I just have to shut my mouth and
Mm,
take a deep breath and let life happen for other people. And I don't have to correct them. I don't have to fix them. And that's a whole new place for me, because I'm control freak helicopter mom, you know? So now I'm just like, oh, you took a new job, you bought in, you did, because my kids are adults and I got to let them go through their processing.
yeah.
And so now that's one of my living open handed. That would be my takeaway. There's hope that we can take our little fingers like a toddler off the knife, off the firecracker off the thing we shouldn't have in our hand
Mm,
and actually, use it to just take a few weeds out of our garden. And then the sun shines there. And
yeah.
before you know it, you're moving along and
That's
you're reacting differently. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a beautiful analogy. Now, I have seen some of your drawing as well, where you draw some of these concepts that you just spoke out then. I would love to see a picture of this garden that you're talking about, and I think it might be such a powerful image to think, yes, my heart is a garden. My heart has some weeds in it. And sometimes those weeds go down deep and they need a whole lot more digging and pushing and shoving to get out. But we know if we don't remove the root, then it's going to grow back again. And that's a cycle I saw in my own life. I thought, like, I got rid of some weeds, but then there they were back again, short time or even a long time later. And so I'd be curious to see what your picture would look like.
I haven't drawn that. That's interesting. He's just been talking to me about the garden and the store,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I need to go on a garden tour. I live in this little town, not little, it's a pretty big town, but they do, like, people have the back because it's been around since before the Revolutionary War.
Mhm.
This town's
Mhm.
been here, so people have the type of architecture downtown where they have the back
Yeah.
gardens. And I just looked that up yesterday. Like, are there garden tours? Either that, or I'm getting old. I'm looking at gardens.
Well, one of the things that you do through expressing, you bring out through your journaling, you bring out through your drawing that deeper heart stuff, and I think that as you've really nailed it for me. Like, it wasn't until my children were it was in my 40s that I started to unravel and really had to start paying attention, because like prior to that I was just busy, 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 like we are when we're mums at that stage of life. And then, of course, as you said, life slows down a bit. And so a lot of the women I work with are in their 40s because their life has unraveled. And so for me, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, well, that's where I was. I kind of, you hit the teenage children stage. And so there are a lot of things.
You have to learn to
Yes.
breathe.
But then, if we, in life, circumstances are definitely something that the door just opens for things to unravel. And I know that some of the women I've worked with, it's been divorced, it's unraveled them, or family relationships, all of those kind of things. At some point there'll be something that tips us over the edge, and we have to face it. And we have a choice in that moment to either face it and go on a heart healing journey, or bury it and try to live around on eggshells for the rest of our life. And I know for me, I just came to a point where I tried that, but it didn't work. It wasn't sustainable. So,
Well, I'm hearing the word grace,
mhm,
because I believe God gives we're doing such a wonderful thing, let alone birthing children, bringing a life into the world, and then the sacrifices you need to make as a mom. And I think there's that grace where He just, like, carries us through that part, and then it's like, okay, now me and you
yeah,
time. And that's where the healing happens, because God loves us so much and wants to know us. And we might hold Him out there somewhere, whatever. I've grown so much in my relationship with Him, because now when I journal, like this morning, I woke up with 2 words in my head. Okay, I don't why would I wake up? I heard anticipate participation. Okay, that didn't come from
mhm,
me. People are like, how do you know God's talking to you? I said, because I journal. And I've learned that when I get a word like that, I grab my Chromebook and I start writing. I look up the words. It's not like an assignment from an English teacher. It's just, I'll look up the
yeah,
definitions. I'll maybe a song floats through my head about anticipation. I thought of the ketchup commercial back in the 70s. Anticipation was this ketchup commercial. And I'm just like, I just start putting these things. I'm like, what are you trying to say? And it's just like, I'm sensing that I need to participate. Anticipating participation from me when he gives me a little thought, right? And I am able now to anticipate his participation, because I'm made in his, there's a two-way connection here that he's initiating.
Yeah.
And so I just take the time to write a little bit or draw a little, and it doesn't have to be hours. It can be, instead of getting on the phone, pick up a pen or type it in. I actually type it in now. But it's just being more organic and not so distracted, because there's always more. We never arrive into perfection. So even when I clean those stones of all those little plants, they come back, and that's okay. That's just life. And it's the ones, if they're flowers, I'm going to keep them. If they're some weed, I'm going to, I don't, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful analogy. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Beautiful. Really appreciate that. And we'll connect again with you soon. Love
soon, whenever. I'll have to draw my garden. That's
got some homework. Off you go and do your homework.
I wasn't expecting homework, Missy, but that's the thing. Take the thought and run with it a little bit.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, God bless you.
Well, God bless you too. Thank you, and thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thanks. Well, that was Cheryl. Cheryl has been part of my journey now for a year or so, and I really appreciated her willingness to share today and just to sort of unfold and unpack some of her own experiences in the heart healing journey. There were some gems that came from our conversation, which I just treasure so much, because it helps to remind me too. Like, journaling is such an incredible thing. I notice that when I journal, I'll sometimes go back and I'll start to pick themes that might come through, like anger or rejection or something. And I'll be like, ooh, there is something there that I actually need to take some time to unpack and bring my heart to that unpacking session, and start to see what's going on. Because like Cheryl was saying, things grow back. The weeds don't always just die and never come back. That would be amazing, but sometimes they certainly do come back, and so we'll have to be doing this process, using those tools and using those strategies, which journaling is one of the really powerful strategies in bringing heart healing. So some of the things that I'd love to do this year is to run these workshops at this time on a regular basis, be weekly and maybe occasionally having a week off, and to just really understand what the heart healing journey is about. People say to me, well, do you have a certificate, or do you have a uni degree? It's like, well, yeah, I do. I have a few, but none of them were related to heart healing. It's like, nah, just unfortunately, you can go to a psychologist and he can help you with your mind. You can do therapy and counseling. And I did those things as well. And they are helpful. They do really open you up to understand the need for things outside of yourself. But for me, they didn't give me the freedom that I was looking for. And it wasn't until I met the mentor that I've worked with now for 20 plus years that I started to understand the whole heart healing journey, the whole heart healing space. And so for me, it became transformational, because I was getting to the weeds. I was getting to the depths. I was getting to the roots of things in my life that had brought about rejection or the lies or the abandonment, and had me in cycles and patterns that just tied me up in knots. And it was horrible. It was horrible. It was affecting my marriage. It was affecting my relationship with some of my children, even friendships. And so getting to the weeds and pulling those weeds out, which I'd love to see the picture that Cheryl comes up with if she does her homework. I would love to see what that looks like, because I in my mind and in the way my imagination works, I also see things, and I see pictures, and I see beautiful things that I can't actually translate onto a piece of paper, because it just wouldn't look the same. But the whole relationship with Cheryl's mother, and the journey that she took to bring healing into that space, which sometimes we're not kind of realizing what we're doing, but it brought about a healed relationship. Another lady I worked with some years ago, she also came because she had had a broken relationship with her mother. In fact, they hadn't spoken for 20 years. And her mother lived overseas. She didn't have connection with her. She would go back to her country, but never visit her mother, never spend time with her. And so she was in her 50s, and she was starting to eat at her. It was starting to really get to her. And so she and I were in connection, and she reached out. And so we started to do a heart healing journey. You know, we had one session, one time together, where she had the opportunity, like Cheryl revealed, to just connect with her heart and listen to what was on her heart. And because there was so much pain there associated with her mum, it was something that was terrifying for her to do, to actually go back and listen to that pain and listen to that hurt. But this is how having a mentor, working together and journeying together back into that pain, can be so incredibly helpful, because it's not so scary perhaps to revisit those places. And so we spent this hour and a half maybe together. It wasn't that long. And as we unpacked what her heart was crying out and wanting to be heard, it really was wanting to be heard. There was some past experiences, some things in the family that had impacted her life seriously, and things that her mother had refused perhaps to engage with her daughter over. And so this girl had just lived her life in a vacuum, and then came to the point where the vacuum needed to include not talking to mum anymore. So now at this stage of her life, she was wanting that relationship back. And so we were able to process some of the little girl roots and weeds that had grown up over the years. Some of the while they weren't lies, what had it tipped over into the lie that her mother didn't care about her, that her mother didn't love her mother didn't want to know. And so the lies were perpetuating and building and building and building. And as we spent time listening to the still small voice, the spirit voice, you know, living life from our spirit instead of living it from our soul, our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions, once she made a choice not to live from the soul and to bring that into line, she went away, and I could see quite transformed and hopeful that this relationship with her mum might be restored. To my amazement, 1 hour later, after she'd left me, she called me and said, "Whew, you wouldn't believe what I've been doing for the last hour." And so I said, "What have you been doing?" And she said, "I have been talking to my mother." She called her mum, and she'd been on the phone for an hour and made a commitment, both her and her mother together, that they would ring on a weekly basis and connect again. And, you know, it was just so beautiful, because what had just been the lies that had, you know, happened in her childhood days, the weeds had grown and grown, and they had overgrown her garden to the point that she couldn't see her garden for the weeds. The weeds were the garden. But this journey of this time spent in just letting her heart really be heard and letting the pain be seen was just incredibly transformational. And even today, you know, she's able to continue that relationship with her mother. And I also had mother issues. My mum was very stoic and very much like, you don't express your emotions, you don't tell people how you're feeling, you don't even let yourself know how you're feeling, you just stuff and push and press it down. And so for me, I had to come through a process of really understanding why my mother was that way, and then helping me to be able to break out and choose a different path, which can be scary, but it's actually really, really doable. It's so much simpler than we realize. We live with these memories, we live with these wounds, we live with these hurts that the lie and the weeds just grow stronger and stronger. And because for me, I didn't have the tools. I wasn't taught by my mum how to process emotions. I wasn't taught how to understand the things that were going on inside of me. I just didn't have the tools in my toolkit. And journaling became one of the tools that was very powerful for me in my journey as well. So the heart healing journey, there is no degree, there is no certificate, there is no way that you can currently become a heart healer. It's just like life experiences teach you so much. But one of the things I want to do this year is to start a program which I'm only going to open to a handful of people, to embrace the mentoring journey and embrace becoming a mentor and bringing the heart healing opportunity to people in your sphere of influence. It's going to be a program that we do over a year. If it takes longer, it takes longer. There's sort of no real time frame that it has to be in this period of time. But that is something that I'm working on at the moment. And I'm going to call it the Mentoring Project. The Mentoring Project will be for women who are willing to go through a bit of soul searching and heart healing themselves. And some people will have already done that journey, particularly in who those women that have done it with me. But if you're feeling like, wow, I would love to become somebody that can shift someone's relationship with their mother, and honestly, it's not me, it's Holy Spirit, it's the work, divine work from above, working in and through me. But as your garden gets cleaned up, as the weeds get pulled out, as the weeds get removed in your life, then there's less and less cluttering you and causing you to be focused on all of that stuff, and you can become somebody that actually has the impact and the influence in the lives of others to bring healing into their lives. And what I do now, I only do online. And at first, it was a bit of a shift going from face to face to online. But now I've learned how to do that. So I would love to teach and share with others how they could do these things online, with other women in their sphere of influence as well. So the mentoring project is something that I'm working on, and there are some that have been asking me about that. So I will get brave and start that project probably February, March this year. And what I want to do with the mentoring project is create a space where we can really, when you're mentoring others, if you haven't got the healing in your life, you will get triggered by things you hear. And so if you get triggered by things you hear, you can't help somebody else because you're dealing with your own stuff that's going inside of you. So it's learning how to really be able to manage, like Cheryl was sharing, that she had learned to detach herself from what was triggering her with her mum, and then she was able to hear and have compassion for her mum and be able to create the space for truth to come out. And so while we're being triggered, we can't do that. But when we've got our own emotions and our own heart into a healthy space, then we can help other people. And while it might sometimes be scary to think, how can I help someone if I'm not completely healed myself? Well, none of us will ever be completely healed because, as Cheryl shared, the weeds will grow back up. But we'll have strategies and we'll have tools and we'll have the ability to be able to jump on those weeds and deal with them so that they're not going to clutter our garden. They're not going to create a blockage that's going to cause for us to not be able to help other people. So that's my heart, to run a program where women that want to step into that mentoring space and become mentors themselves, because this is so needed. There are so many people crying out for help and support. And so having a structure on how to operate in that space, and then having a community where we can come back and get help and support and encouragement from one another. That's another part of the piece which is really essential. So knowing that you've got support, knowing that you've got a backup, knowing that you can reach out. So once a week, for those in the mentoring project, we'll spend a couple of hours where we can bring out maybe our own personal challenges, but then also challenges we might have had working with others, and be able to support and encourage each other in the journey, because I don't have all the answers, but I know the one that does. My God has all the answers, and I'm so grateful for the connection that I've made with other women who can encourage and help me and support me. So there'll be 4 phases to the mentoring project. The first will be working through an inventory of our own personal stuff to make sure that we're in a place that is strong and grounded to be able to launch ourselves from. The second phase will be learning how to be ask questions, because we don't want to be telling people what's wrong with them. We want them to, they know what's wrong. We want to be able to ask questions to help them really bring out their heart issues and bring them up and hear what their heart is saying. So to be able to listen and ask questions and strategies on that side of it, that's the second phase. Then the third phase will be stepping into the mentoring role and bringing working with women, and then being able to get support and encouragement and insight from others as we do that part of the phase of the mentoring project. And then finally, how to set up online and how to establish yourself online so that you can get a greater sphere of influence, and also people can find you, because while people desperately want healing, sometimes they just don't know how to go about it, and they don't know where to find it. And we need to be willing to put ourselves out there. So the mentoring project will be, if you're curious about that, then you can message me on Facebook or ask a question, but I'll be putting more up in the Redemption Mamas Facebook group. So if you are wanting to know more about this heart healing journey, then join the Redemption Mamas Emotional Emo, was what I called it, Emotional Heart Healing Facebook group. And that's where I'll be much more active with the heart healing journey. But anyone that's curious, just reach out. You can find me on Facebook, and if you're curious, we can talk a bit more about that. So Heart Encounters is what I offer, one-on-one heart encounters, and I have a calendar link that you can book in and jump on and have a heart encounter if there's something pressing for you, something that you want to get a bit more understanding about. If you're interested in the mentoring project, then I'll send you a different link and we can jump in to chat about that at some point in time. But I just want to say thanks to Cheryl, who joined us today. And next week, I'll be inviting somebody else to come along and just share a little bit about what their heart healing journey has looked like, because there's nothing more powerful than a story. There's nothing more powerful than seeing and having that concept unpacked by a real life story and a real life scenario. And it's just so beautiful. So my gratitude to Cheryl today for sharing with us, and for you for joining with us. This time each week we'll be jumping on. So you're very, very welcome. I'll be putting some links into the Facebook group, in the Redemption Mamas Facebook group, where you can register for this workshop and you can jump on and we can be live together. We can be in the same room, and along the way, which we did last time I ran these workshops, if people want to have some heart healing and maybe there's something you want to bring out that's not too deeply personal, because of, we all have deeply personal stuff that's more for a one-on-one setting, but something that's come up and you think, yeah, maybe we could do a little bit of a heart healing, a heart encounter in our time together. So lots of ways that I've worked in the past, lots of opportunities to explore this heart healing, see what it's all about, a bit of teaching as to, how heart healing works. And, it works through Holy Spirit, revelation, insight, understanding, and wisdom. And that's what it takes to just be continually open. And so go find your own secret space. I found a new one. I didn't think to bring my little secret space opportunity of late, but I decided to get one of those LED masks, for your face, that give you some LED light therapy. And what I discovered is when I put it on, I can't do anything else except just sit there. And I'm like, perfect secret space, this one. So I've been using, a good half an hour each day of just really being able to sit, still myself down, like Cheryl was saying, learning to be still, learning to be quiet, learning to listen to that heart voice, learning to listen to what our hearts are saying. Beautiful, beautiful opportunity just in something like that. So you find your own secret space, have a little experiment with some different ways that you can just sit and be still and be quiet. Turn your phone off, throw your phone out the window, whatever it takes, because they are huge distractions. I know for me, it's a big distraction. But love for you to join me weekly this time, and I'll just be putting it up in the Facebook group so you can see when the opportunity is coming for the Come, Taste and See workshop, because that's what it's all about, coming and seeing, tasting and getting a little idea of what this heart healing is all about. So thanks for joining me today. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next time.